how many people are being deployed on this, right? It was difficult to get answers to those questions. So that is where the knowledge base also comes in. That is, unless we have good data by which we can specify some of the objectives or the outcomes. Now, one of the things Philip mentioned this morning is we often focus on research because it is quantifiable. Well, that is fine. But we should be able to come up with some quantification of education, some quantification of service too, if those are parts of the outcomes that we desire. So, one of the important, I think, issues in terms of using the framework is to use that not only to define the state of the aspiration, but also the state of the practice. I could think of finding data on the column in the functions, how much money is being spent on the various research, education, this thing. Or, for example, if we are talking about we want to be, the scope is going to be the entire Middle East, we want to know how many students are coming from the different region. What are the indicators by which we are going to say that we are fulfilling the scope? Where are the faculty members coming from? Where are the students coming from? And so on and so forth. And the last point I make there is that we need to assess the state of the need. This, I think, is important, especially if you are considering the notion of market-driven entrepreneurship. In other words, where is the need? Like in the case of the pathological lab, there was a need for pathological services. Often, I think in universities, we tend to, goes back to the point I think Joseph made earlier, what is the relevance of the research? Where is it used? What is the state of the need? What type of research is needed? Now, this is a tough thing to accomplish because faculty members tend to want to do the research that they want to do, right? And the value, however, of that research could be very limited. So in the ideal situation, one would like to be able to assess the state of the aspiration, state of the practice, and state of the need. And then I drew a simple matrix to think about it. Sometimes the aspiration can exceed practice. So there is a strategy gap, that is, the strategy has to be formulated. That is what you would expect. But what happens when the aspiration is far in excess of the need? In other words, there is no match between what we aspire to do and what is the need. We want to provide a service, we don't have a documented need for that one. That I call the radical strategy gap, where the need still has to be established. So if you want to provide a certain type of clinical service, if you want to develop a certain type of product, that may be part of our aspiration, but is there a need for that one? How do we, because a lot of the mission and vision in the universities and colleges, they talk about social development. How do we assess the need of the society? Because the needs of the society from what faculty members think and the university administrators think may be quite different from what the ultimate customers think. At the second row, leftmost, I talk about the practice being ahead of the aspiration. There is an envisioning gap. The vision has to be reassessed. Now, this is a sort of a reversal of what we may think about. And in innovation literature, there is often a talk about the idea that often the innovation comes from the customer. So the practice being ahead of the aspiration talks about the possibility of doing things that you had not thought about as part of your aspiration. All of a sudden, you find students from a region that you had not thought were coming here, right? Then there may be a market. For example, at the University of Illinois, Chicago, we have a very large China MBA program. It's a very specialized China MBA program. We get students from a couple of provinces of China and Taiwan, and they do part of the courses in China. They come here to the US for 1 year and they get their degree. It was discovered accidentally, and then it became part of the strategy, and it was developed into a large-scale program that has been generating almost, I think, $2 to $3 million a year. The rightmost column of this second row is the practice is ahead of the need.